Hi, everyone. A very good morning, afternoon, or evening. We have an exciting topic today, or discussion with the two masters. This is Grapes and Grains with the Masters, featuring Master of Wine Jennifer Simonetti Bryan, who is the fourth female MW from the United States. I think you're somewhere around one of 350. I always kind of quote that number, but it's very small and very select. This is the pinnacle of the wine world. On the other end, we have the pinnacle of the beer world, a creator of a brilliant program, the Prud'Homme Beer Certification Program from Canada, a beer expert, Roger Middag. Both of you, welcome to the set. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. And it's a pleasure to meet you, Roger.
It's nice to meet you as well, Jennifer. I'm doing well despite all this craziness surrounding us. So yeah, there should be tons of fun.
It's a good thing we're in the alcohol industry.
I think so.
That's true. And you know, anytime that there's a dip in the economy, and we're certainly in towards a depression, not a recession, with all the bankruptcies and clawbacks, we're really fortunate to be in a business that stands the test of time.
Yeah, well, not only that, it's an inelastic industry. So if people are not making money, they're drinking. If the people are doing well, they're drinking. So
that's true. That's true. Well, we have a great discussion here, and I think this is probably one of the first times. I can't say this is the first time because I really don't know, and I don't want to make that claim, but this might be the first time I've actually sat down with a master of wine and really a master of beer in the same room, because the two subjects are weirdly separated, yet they have, I know studying both of them, they have so much commonality. One overlaps the other. You know, the influence of monks, for instance, on wine and beer is equally as prolific. You know, just to get a little bit of insight into both of you, I know we've covered this before. We'll start with you, Jennifer. How did you get started? I know your backstory. It's an exciting one, but a lot of the audience may not know this.
Yeah, okay. So I used to be 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, I was in investment banking, and I was working in London. I was working for a Citicorp at the time. And, you know, the short answer is that banking drove me to drink, but that's not really true. So what happened was I was working for Citibank, and it was a business lunch that changed my life forever. So I went to this optimal capital structuring presentation, and I'd been working on this presentation for a long time. And so here we are, and you know, they let us management associates out every once in a while for like lunch, but they didn't let us out too much. So we go to this incredible dining facility that Citicorp had right on the Thames, overlooking the Tower of London. I mean, it was just amazing. And at this lunch, at this business lunch, they served an herb-crusted salmon and a salseo. Now, I knew nothing about wine. My family drank Riunite. It's nice on ice. That's all I knew about wine. I knew nothing. And it wasn't that the wine itself was so amazing. It was just this combination of the food and wine that like kind of woke me up. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was so distracted that I was interrupting the meeting going, wait, taste this and then drink this. And I would like wait for their reactions. Like this was so new to me. And I had my boss kicking me under the table going, Jennifer, what are you doing? Get back to the presentation. But this blew my mind because it occurred to me that the chef in the back of this dining facility of this international bank didn't go, whatever, just give them that white wine we have over there. No, there was a conscious decision to put these two things together. And I was like, epiphany, like I never knew that was a possibility and why someone would do that. And I figured, you know what? I need to just dedicate 1 hour a week to looking into this new thing. And so I took a wine course, the Philip McGregor School for Wine. He was drunk all the time. Oh my God. And I actually think he was using this course as a way to fund his habit. But for the most part, it was once a week. I would go there, I would learn about wine, and go back to the office. And a seed was planted, and I wanted to know more and more about it. So that's what started the whole thing.
That's awesome. That's a great backstory. How about you, Roger? I know that you've got extensive history in the brewing and beer industry and stuff, but there must have been something innate that woke you up into this industry beforehand.
Well, innate, maybe it could be my German background. My dad always liked beer. My family was always part of that culture. So maybe inherently that's what drove me there. But I was always in sales. I worked in the sporting goods industry for a long period of time. And we all know that when one door shuts, another one opens. And in this case, many doors opened. But the door that shut was one for Adidas. And I got fired from my job there. And
you got fired from the Adidas?
I did. So I didn't fit with their model of what they wanted going forward, or who knows what it was. In the end, it forced me to take a look at myself and where I wanted to be. And through the whole process, decided that I wanted to get into beverage alcohol, because why not, right? It's so much fun. You get to drink while you're doing your job in some cases. But for me, I applied to this little tiny newspaper article from this company called the Olin Specialty Beer Company. And, I applied. There was like 2,000 applicants. They were building a company from the ground up. So this was a specialty beer company that in hindsight, if I had known, I'm not sure that would have changed my target, but they were owned by Labatt and owned by Interbrew. So I was lucky enough to be one of, I think, 14 people in Ontario that got hired. And then we got hired in September. I happen to be the oldest. Not that that means anything, but I always think I was bringing some level of maturity. But again, I'm not sure about that.
Wisdom. Your wisdom.
Yeah. We got hired in September. November, they took us on our first training journey, and we flew to Halifax first, then to Brussels, spent 7 days in Brussels visiting 3 different breweries and being trained in a place called the Horeca Academy, which is hotel, restaurant, and cafe. And like, we were trained on everything: beer and food, culture, glassware, how to pour. Ended up in the Boddington's Brewery in Manchester, England on the 9th day, and then came back. And the expectation for us was that we were going to deliver that knowledge experience back to our customers and to consumers. So for me, that was a fire that got lit that has never been extinguished. And, worked there for 8 years and then started my own business because it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Wow. And a business you've certainly built. I mean, you have tens of thousands of students that have come through that program now, which just is fantastic. Yeah. I mean, and it's global too, which is, that's just, I can't get my head around that kind of achievement, like in one sitting. You really have to think about how far you've developed this.
Yeah, I just keep hoping that it's going to keep going. Every once in a while we get people signing into our online program, and I'm always amazed at where they're from. Like, we've had some people from the US recently. We've had somebody from Australia, had somebody from Israel earlier. So like, it's kind of fun watching that.
Yeah, and Jennifer, yourself too. I imagine you have quite the international audience with Master of Wine Online, and the influence you've really brought to the wine world, not only as a very successful student and ultimately becoming a master of wine, but as a business person as well. I'd say you've done a very good job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was quite lucky to do a series of courses with the Great Courses, which used to be called the Teaching Company, but they're called the Great Courses now. And I did 5 different courses with them, and they send out like 50 million catalogs around the United States, but also all over the world. And so I had that was about 10 years ago. And when I started Master Wine Online, just a couple of years ago, I was just amazed by some of the students, like Russia and Brazil. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea that they even knew who I was. And so it's really interesting to see the international character. I mean, especially this year with online learning. I mean, and I think because of it's silver linings of COVID, that we're all now looking at how to learn and interact with people online, where it's a really difficult industry to do that. I remember telling my parents about, hey, I want to do this thing online. They're like, well, get out there more, be in front of people. And like in this year of COVID, you can't.
No.
So and I think it's a good thing to be able to branch out, but it's tough. It's tough not being able to be physically with someone. I mean, Roger, you talked about, you know, your the catalyst that brought you into the whole beer world, and it was a trip. It was someplace that you could physically touch things and look and smell and feel, and going to different places. And there's a real tactile an emotional attachment to those types of trips. So it's very difficult for our industry right now, and because all we have is online.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think it is all about emotion and touch and feel and magic, right? So we'll weather the storm, I hope.
Yeah.
It's true. And fortunately, we're in pieces of business, you know, that really overlap, that transcend borders really well. On the next topic, I'm just wondering, what would your advice be for somebody who is new, or the best way for someone to come into our fields? I mean, sometimes it could be a course, or you recommend a seminar. I know, Roger, you have your program, but if somebody just wants to spark interest, even the layman or the common person just wants to learn a little more and they know nothing, what would your advice be? So what would your advice be, Roger? So I'll start with you.
Other than obviously taking your course, because obviously taking your course, Roger, is the best option. But if there was a different option, you know, maybe recommend. I mean, obviously it is. It's the best option. It is, because you make great courses. So
I think it's just getting, like, you know, like you said, Jennifer, it's about getting together with other people. And I think it's more about exploration than anything else. And I think if you can find a way to light a fire and discover, you know, whether it's beer or wine or spirits, but, you know, find something that you never knew or you never expected, and then share those comments with friends and with family, and just say, hey, listen, I never knew that beer was like this, or I never knew that there was so many different varieties of wine. For me, it's more about just talking and enjoying somebody's company, because I think that's what this is, right? It's beverage alcohol, and whether it's beer, wine, or spirits, is about discussions, and it's about getting together, and it's about a commonality that we all share. And for me, the other big thing is finding out about stories, because you know, Rob, you alluded to this earlier, but when you go back in history and you look at where this has all come from, there's just so many amazing stories that that gives people a narrative. It gives people something to talk about other than just the day-to-day things that we normally have to discuss. Sometimes it's like Jennifer said, man, I had this unbelievable experience with this drink and with this food. Yeah. So I would say, you know, get together and share some discussions and talk, because that's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, I for wine, I started on the Kevin Zraly Windows on the World wine course book. And I got the one that was, even though I got it in the late 90s, it was a preprint from 1976. I bought it, and it was amazing, and I loved it. And just like Roger's talking about, it had these stories in there, and I don't know if it's the same with beer, but with wine, we are map geeks. We love maps, and it had maps in there, and you can point to stuff. And so that was my start. And I still think it's a great book for people, obviously, other than my 1 Minute Wine Master book. Yeah, I did a book that is for, if Kevin Zraly's book is too much, then my 1 Minute Wine Master book, that's why I created it. It's a quiz. And after, you know, about 10 questions, you get placed into one of 4 categories: spring, summer, fall, winter. So if you're a spring, you like sweet, light, delicate wines that maybe smell like little flowers. If you're a winter, you like big, bold, rich wines that put hair on your chest, kind of red wines. So, trying to make it easy for people, because let's be honest, in the wine world, we get our snob on quite often. So anything that can make it easier for people to say, hey, and have a conversation, and I want to talk to you about what I experienced, and not feel stupid, I think is a positive. So yeah, so Kevin Zraly's book is the one I started on, and I highly recommend it.
Cool. Now, you mentioned stories, and stories are so powerful. I mean, particularly even doing video when I brand or present a winery or brewery to the public, the main thing is to convey the message of that story, because stories resonate. And the beauty of this field is there's just seems to be an endless amount of stories out there. It's just, you could spend 100 lifetimes trying to map them all. And that's, for me, is the really exciting part of the journey.
Well, I think also too, on YouTube, we see these reaction videos, and usually it's around music, right? So someone's listening for the first time, something from Pink Floyd, and it's someone who's only like, 20 years old or 18 years old who's never heard anything like this. And you're like, oh my God, you're in for such a treat. I think that's what we do in wine and beer, where we give them a wine or we give them a beer. We're waiting for their reaction, because we're just excited to see, like, oh, I know what you're in for. This is going to be amazing. So I think there is part of that kind of reactionary thing that we want to see the excitement. Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly. I always refer to it as, it gives me the most pleasure when I see the light go on. It's, somebody then suddenly you can see that they get what you're talking about and they get your passion. So yeah, 100% in on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to move into something a little more fun here. Thanksgiving's coming up in Canada. It's coming up this Monday. And then your Thanksgiving in the States is coming up the third Thursday of November.
Earlier than we do.
What would be your favorite picks for Thanksgiving turkey, Jennifer? If you're asking, because people love this, and they would love to hear it from the experts. I've got a turkey dinner roasting in the oven, or it could be lamb, and then the fixings: mashed potato, turnip, the gravy, the cranberry, the pumpkin pie. What are some of the things that you love pairing with Thanksgiving dinner?
Okay, so for Thanksgiving, if you're getting the traditional turkey stuffing and all that kind of stuff, getting one wine to fit all of that is really kind of difficult. So if you're going to try to go down the middle is a rosé. And if I think about it, it's probably a Tavel rosé. A Tavel rosé, so rich and deep. I mean, if this wine could be a red wine, it would be, but it's a rosé, and it's a really deep rosé. So it's got a lot of flavor, but it doesn't have a lot of tannin. So it will really complement the turkey, and so the turkey is going to bring out some of that cherry and raspberry and cranberry flavors of the wine. And the wine is going, with its acidity, is going to bring out some of the flavors of the turkey, which is the reason why you put cranberry sauce with turkey in the first place, because it's got high acidity and you've got some fruitiness there. So there's a real complementing that happens there. So that's but pumpkin pie, I might go with a tawny port. So you need something a little sweet. You can't really put a dry wine with a pumpkin pie. So a tawny port, maybe a 20-year tawny, that might be nice and nutty and nunnies to go with pumpkin pie.
Well, you get the date, the fig aspect, honey in there, all sorts of neat things, a bit of nuttiness as well.
Yeah.
And with the rosé, Tavel is one of my favorite. It's dry, it's got weight to it. And you can see where it could cut into a lot of that dish too, with the bit of the acidity that sits in it as well.
Yeah, most people say Pinot Noir or a Gamay or a Beaujolais. Those are also very good ones too. I mean, turkey is so light. If you put something really heavy, it would be like pairing Gwyneth Paltrow and a sumo wrestler. I mean, it wouldn't work. So you can't really put I know, great visual, right? You can't really put a really heavy wine with turkey. So.
Well, and for you, Roger, I know, we just going through your courses, we did so much beer pairing with food. Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, there's some awesome beers out there to pair with a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, I'm with Jennifer. It's really hard to figure out one particular one that's going to go with everything. I think one of the things that I've always looked at is you know, the main part of the meal is not the relevant part for me. It's more of what the ingredients are, what the side dishes are. Those mean a lot more to me than just the turkey itself. And even if you took turkey and looked at white meat versus dark meat, you get two completely different kinds of characteristics. So, I mean, I really like what Jennifer was suggesting from a wine perspective. So I think I would do both of those easily. From a beer perspective, I would, you know, turkey's a really big thing in our house. We always really enjoy it. So we don't really have anything else like lamb or ham. But turkey for us is, you know, it's one of those really nice turkeys that's got butter basting in it. And my wife makes these typical German noodles that we always have. And she's an incredible stuffing maker as well. So it's a very, very complex meal. But for me, I would go along the same lines as what Jennifer's suggesting. You know, I would probably do something lighter, like a Saison. It's got a little bit of spice characteristics to it, but it's got lots of carbonation to take away from some of the fattiness. There's a really good brewery in Guelph, Ontario that makes this hibiscus Saison, and that to me is a little bit more of where I want to go. I want a little bit of fruit with that Saison. I want a little bit of raspberry, a little bit of cherry, or even cranberry to pull out the cranberry, but also to cut through some of the density of the turkey itself and to brighten the entire meal up. And we definitely need lots of CO2. So if you had something that was softer, the CO2 works like Jennifer was talking about with the acidity. We want that to bring everything else out. And typically what happens, the acidity in cranberries tends to drop a little bit, and then we get a little bit more sweetness. And now we're combining sweetness with savory. We've got a beautiful contrast.
Yeah. Works
perfect. As far as pumpkin pie goes, as much as I would love to have that tawny, you know, I would probably very simply go with maybe a pumpkin spice beer, but that's in many cases, that's just way too simple, but it works so nicely.
I've never had one. I'm going to have to.
Oh, you have to have one of those.
Oh, there are some really good ones out there. The guys that are really good on a pumpkin beer have done balance to the nth degree. And so you're not getting too much nutmeg and too much cinnamon. It's just very, very gentle in there, but it works so beautifully together.
Wow. I would think, is it, I know I did, I'm not plugging my book. Okay. I did a book with a master chef, and it took us 3 years to create all the different pairings and things of that sort. And sometimes what we found was if you had one flavor of something and then you added a wine with it that had similar flavors, it was a compounding effect as opposed to canceling each other out.
Yep.
And so I would never have even thought about doing a pumpkin beer versus, you know, with a pumpkin pie, and I would have assumed that it would be too much pumpkin. But apparently it works. I mean, I'm going to have to try it.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
I think you're right. In some cases, it can be compounding, but there's, you know, to try to separate with beer is, in that case, you don't want to get too full. And I think the CO2 is going to help to bring down some of that richness in that pie, but you're just going to get flavor and flavor. And it's more like where one stops and the other ends is really hard to figure those things out. But I could find a ton of different beers. Pie, so.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've never had that kind before. It sounds really awesome. And, you know, in my family, more pumpkin, mo better. So I think so. If it compounds, it's not going to be a problem actually. So.
Yeah. And the only thing we really miss with Thanksgiving dinner up here is an exciting football game or two that you have on your Thanksgiving. You know, it always makes things exciting. But ladies and gentlemen, just remember as well, cut, complement, and contrast, the 3 C's. These are very important things to remember when looking at whatever beverage you want to pair with food. You know, a contrast could be sweet and spicy, for instance, or, you know, a complement could be savory and juicy and fruity, these types of things. Just think of it along those lines. And we're going to wrap up here. I think this was exciting. This was a lot of fun. 2 of my mentors in wine and in beer that you have just met. If you want to reach out to them, I highly recommend you do so. I know Jennifer Simonati Bryan's on Twitter. She's on LinkedIn. She has masteronwine.com, her website. It's pretty straightforward to reach out with her. If you Google the name Jennifer Simonati Bryan, you're going to find a plethora of information on wine. Same goes for Roger Middag in the world of beer. Thirst for Knowledge is the name of his company. The program is Prud'homme Beer Certification, and it is a fantastic program. It is a true beer sommelier program. It's multi-tiered, and they get very deep into the history and the culture and the background and the stories behind beer. I mean, Jennifer's familiar with this with wine too. The similarities are quite striking. So if you're a beverage student, I would highly recommend you actually dip into both worlds, because it's going to help you, especially if you're on a restaurant floor or you're presenting. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you decide to do, have a terrific day. This is Rob from The Drunken Crate.